Morning everyone. Last English lesson, and this is our final plot point that we are writing together. Okay, I have checked it's recording today, I'm not going to have to redo it. So, today Conor remains unmoved. He's still not bothered by this monster. So actually, I've given this a positive emotion because although what's going on around him is fairly scary, Conor's staying strong, really. He's just not bothered. And throughout today's lesson, we're going to build in that contrast again between the monster, the kind of terrifying persona of this monster, and the cool as a cucumber reaction from Conor. So, first learning chunk 1, we're looking at synonyms and repetition. And I really want in this chunk to drive home to the reader how big, angry and real this monster is, using some repetition as well. So, big, angry, real, perfectly valid, perfectly good words, but let's see if we can improve on them. Okay, so I did a bit of thinking. I looked back at those images of the monster. He's not just big, he's immense, isn't he? He's towering because he's not just big, he's tall, he's towering over buildings and certainly over Conor, and he's colossal. And he's angry, he's been stomping off, hasn't he? He's irate. Incensed, have you heard that one? That's when you're absolutely so incensed that you're about to explode, or enraged. We've used that one before, that's a really good one. And then I wanted some words for genuine, for real as well. So the first one I came up with was genuine. Authentic. Yeah, it's authentic, it's not a fake, it's authentic. And this one is lovely. You pronounce it bona fide. You actually say the E on the end, bona fide. I don't know if you've come across that one before. It's from the Latin, and it means in good faith. So the way it's used in English today is to mean something is genuine, something is authentic, okay? So you need to do a little bit of jotting, and I do need to see your jottings each day, please. Some of you are being amazing and sending it me every day, others I'm not getting it. We're going to use these words now to create our first mini chunk. And the first thing I want to say about the monster, first thing I want to get across to my reader is that it's real. Now I'm going to stay simple as I normally do, and I'm just going to put a real monster. See, this is where I give you the opportunity to outshine my writing. And then I want to say how big my monster is. It's not just real, it's enormous. So I'm going to add that in. So we're repeating, but we're going to add in another word. And I'm going to say a huge, real monster. Now I'm going to get my angry bit in. So I'm still going to use the repetition. A huge, angry, real monster. So each time we've repeated this, a real monster, but we've built on it. We've added in huge, and then we've added in angry. Okay, now I've said these are sentences. They're not bona fide sentences, are they? Because they haven't got a subject and a verb. These are phrases, but we do still need to separate them with a full stop in our writing. And these are the phrases that are going to be the start of this paragraph for today's lesson. So I need you to come up with your own synonyms if you can, or magpie, and then come up with 3 of these phrases, building each time. Okay? Come back to me when you've completed that. See you in a minute. Okay, chunk 2. This time we are looking at actions. We're using our actions lens. So we're just really observing what's actually going on. I want to show Conor's reaction to this angry, immense, genuine monster, because it's really not what the reader would expect. So we know he's unmoved, he's unfazed, he's not bothered, he's certainly not scared of him. So I want to think of how we can show that through his actions. Okay, so if you're really not bothered about something, what are the things that you sometimes do? Well, you might just shrug your shoulders, you might roll your eyes, you might have a little yawn, or you might just turn your back, you might have a look around, you might, I don't know, inspect your fingernails, scratch your head. There's lots and lots of things that you might do to show this absolute nonchalance, this just absolute not being moved at all by the situation around you. So I want to put these into a sentence, and I want to start my sentence with ing words, because it gives us that variety in sentence structure that we're looking for. So I'm going to start off with shrugging, shrugging, yawning, and now this is one that I use at school. This is how I know sometimes when you're not really listening. Gazing into space. Conor watched. Someone used watched yesterday. It was very effective. It might have been Max. But I'm going to change that. Observed. I think observed might be more effective. As if he's just observing a specimen in a jar. The monster. Okay. You're going to do a similar sentence. You're going to write a similar sentence. I want 3 ing actions at the start to show how completely unmoved Conor is by the monster's tactics. Remember, you've always got that option to deepen the moment. Right, come back to me when you've written your own sentence, and you might have some totally different actions to me. You might know what you do when you're really not listening. Third chunk of the day. This is finishing off our paragraph for today. So I keep talking about contrast, and I want to use a subordinating conjunction to talk about this contrast between the monster's behaviour and Conor's behaviour. So I came up with despite, although, in spite of. These are all ways you could introduce a sentence with a subordinating conjunction. So you might say, despite the sunshine, it was bitterly cold. Yeah? So you need to think of your own again. There are others you can use. There might be words or they might be short phrases. And I'm going to carry on with a little bit of dialogue as well. Now the dialogue I'll put in a different colour. You can magpie this. You do not have to change this if you don't want to. This is, you know, on our maps we have the little footsteps. This is almost the footstep bit, a joining bit. So despite, I'm going to start with, because I like that one. Despite the monsters. And I want to talk about his aggressive and threatening and I'm not going to say his actions, I'm just going to say the fact that he is there. His presence would be enough to scare most people into next week. So despite the monsters, aggressive, threatening, so root word present, presence is presence, yep. That's my fronted adverbial because I'm starting my sentence with my subordinate clause, aren't I? Despite the monster's aggressive, threatening presence, Conor felt no fear. Not what you'd expect at all. Now I'm going to go back into another colour. Conor's going to say something. So there's my inverted commas to start his speech. And he's going to say to the beast, shout all you like. Conor, I'm going to go for shrugged, I think. Shout all you like. Conor shrugged. Barely, because he's going to say it really quietly, barely raising his voice. More speech, he's going to carry on. I've seen or heard. I'm going to carry on with seen because it's the whole image that he's seeing. I've seen worse. So we've got his very cool, collected response to this threatening beast. Despite the monster's aggressive, threatening presence, Conor felt no fear. So this is the bit I really want you to focus on. But if you've still got time, you can alter this. You don't have to use it exactly the same. Right, so that is the end of the section we're writing. We've actually only covered the first chapter of A Monster Calls. Next week you're going to be doing some independent writing, but we'll talk about that on Monday. What I would like to do is read you the entire story that we've written so far. I would if I could find it. There we go. Okay, so if you were to look back at all the videos, this is the story we've written so far. Conor had a nightmare. The horrific howling wind, a torturous trickle of blood, sudden short breaths, and a sinister shadowy figure. He woke. He woke gasping. He woke trembling. Only semi-conscious, Conor sat up in bed. What was that? He thought. Something was unfamiliar. Something was different. Something was very unfamiliar and very different. 12:07. 7 minutes past midnight. For Conor, time dragged desperately as his heart pounded in his chest. It was beating twice as fast as the ticking clock. Emerging from the darkness was his familiar teddy bear, his comforting duvet, and the reassuring clicking of his radiator. Conor, who had leaned closer to the edge of his bed, looked back at the frozen clock. The light of the moon cut through the darkness. The magnetic moon beckoned Conor, Shadows lingered in the garden, sinister, threatening. Crash! The earth ripped. Thud! The soil parted. Boom! The terrain tore. Am I still in my nightmare? Said Conor nonchalantly. Piercing from the depths were eyes as red as fresh embers. Conor watched as the tree emerged from the ground. Twigs tangled, roots wrenched, and leaves laced to form the monster of his nightmares. Conor stared out at the beast. The monster lowered its gnarled hand. Come with me, it bellowed. Conor said, if I were to put myself in your hands, if I were to go with you, then what would you offer me? I have come to get you, Conor O'Malley, thundered the monster. I'll do what I want, said Conor casually. Stomping across the soil, the monster strangled clouds, tore at trees and pummeled brickwork. The clouds hid behind the moon, the trees trembled, and the bricks shuddered in fear. A real monster, a huge, real monster, a huge, angry, real monster. Shrugging, yawning, and gazing around, Conor watched the monster. Despite the monster's aggressive, threatening presence, Conor felt no fear. Shout all you want, Conor shrugged, barely raising his voice. I've seen worse. Okay, that's where we're up to. Monday, as I say, you're going to start work, start planning your independent write, but you'll have lots more support and lots more structure for that. Okay, have a lovely weekend, everyone, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.